Hey, how's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the SFS channel. My name's Gavin, and today I've got 5 must-start running backs for Week 6 fantasy football action. These are matchups I love, players who impressed me last week, and moving forward here, I think can be really strong plays for us in Week 6. If you've got questions for me for your individual teams and respective matchups this week, drop those down in the comment section below, and myself or Eric will be happy to get back to you as soon as possible, and we'll try and make our way through as many of those comments as we are able to here this week. But if you're looking to gain some additional advice from us here, make sure to head over to our website, sizzlefantasy.com, and check out our SFS Gold membership feature. That's where you'll get access to my private DMs in the community Discord and be able to ask me questions on a day-to-day basis and get access to my positional rankings for quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and defenses every single week for just over $1 per week for the entire month of fantasy action that you've gained access to. So, with that being said, we're not going to waste any more time. Click that subscribe button if you're new around here. Give today's video a like, and let's hit that intro and get straight in to our first must-start player this week. All right, here we go, jumping straight into today's top must-start running back. Well, not necessarily top, because these aren't in any particular order. These are just 5 matchups, 5 names, 5 players that I like for this week's games. I'm going to go Javonte Williams. If you're a Javonte Williams owner right now, if you've been listening to the buy low talk that I've had here for literally the last 5 weeks straight, I've been capitalizing on that opportunity in every league that I get the chance to, because I think long-term this guy's got a lot of potential to be a fantasy superstar down the stretch of this season. I'm giving Javonte the start here in Week 6, and it's not necessarily because I expect him to fully take over this offense, but the productivity and the increased efficiency he had over Melvin Gordon in Week 5 was very encouraging for me, in this week's matchup against the Las Vegas Raiders is something I'm very fond of here. Last week, Javonte doubled the scrimmage yardage output on the exact same amount of touches as Melvin Gordon. Javonte nor Melvin Gordon are workhorse backs right now. They are splitting touches dang near evenly in this Broncos backfield, but I think Javonte's efficient enough to get the job done here, and in a matchup that I think is favorable, and we've seen teams run all over the Raiders this season, I think he can walk out here and put up some pretty solid floor numbers. Now, I'm not expecting a huge boom performance out of Javonte, but if you're really desperate for some steady RB2 numbers, if you've had some of these running backs, Saquon Barkley, we're now down David Montgomery, we've got some other injuries out there, nagging stuff, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If you need someone to step up to the plate and fill that running back 2 void in your lineups, I can definitely see Javonte Williams doing so, or being a strong standard league flex option. Again, the upside is not huge this week, so he's not necessarily going to be a week-winning play, but he can definitely hold down the fort and get the job done for lineups here this week, especially if he's able to cash in the end zone for 6. Antonio Gibson. Now, last week I was a little bit more concerned about the stress fracture in the shin, and I thought that was going to play a pretty significant impact into his production and usage here. And going into a tough New Orleans Saints rushing defense, I didn't love the matchup in Week 5. But at the very least, he delivered, and a lot of his production came from the touchdowns. He had 2 TDs, but the fact that he was still able to rush 20 times with that injury was very encouraging to me, because, I thought it would play a bigger role in his usage, and I thought we'd see a lot more J.D. McKissic than we did. He had 22 total touches on the day, 72 yards, and again, those 2 touchdowns, but he's got Kansas City this week. The fact that the Washington football team had really no reservations for him and didn't keep him out and reduce his touch count, due to that injury is, again, something very, very good to see. And that Chiefs defense is paper thin. They can't stop a nosebleed right now. You can run the football on them. You can pass the football on them. You can basically have free will to do whatever offensive play style you would like to against this KC defense. It's miserable. And unless Washington gets extremely turnover happy and shoots themselves in the foot in this game, they're going to be able to, at the very least, have some element of ball control here. Because unless you try and get in a shootout with Kansas City and let Taylor Heineke try and duel Patrick Mahomes one-on-one, you're going to have a shot to run the football here, maintain time of possession, and have a very impactful game on that side of the ball. Antonio Gibson's been a bit disappointing this year. He hasn't quite been the top-level RB producer that we all expected him to be after all that buzz came out in this offseason about Christian McCaffrey-level usage and having that role in this offense, because J.D. McKissic, to give him some credit in his own right, he's a dang good receiving back, and he has eaten into that part of Antonio Gibson's work share. But the rushing numbers are starting to produce themselves here. He's starting to find the end zone at a higher clip, closer to like what we saw in his rookie season from him, which gave him that great upside that made us all very intrigued to then come out and draft him high again this season. So I think Gibson moving forward, especially in this matchup here, is beginning to trend upwards. I like him against Kansas City this week, and I think he's a strong top 12 play. And for those of you who are getting a bit concerned with him in the past here, there's a lot of questions about potentially selling Antonio Gibson. I think that Week 5 matchup against the Saints was a beacon of hope here and a bright spot for Gibson moving forward this season. How about Zack Moss? This has been one of the most interesting running back situations so far in 2021 fantasy football. From an inactive in Week 1 to his progression in this Bills offense up until this point, the dude had 74% snap percentage last week against the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. That is awesome. And for someone who is higher on a Zack Moss in the draft process than even, say, a Damian Harris, because I just think that Zack Moss's receiving ability and goal line work gives him some really great upside here, it's starting to kind of come to fruition. And the fact that he's able to find the end zone at such a nice clip, the fact that he's taking snap percentages and plays away from Devin Singletary is really starting to elevate his role in this offense here. He wasn't an incredibly productive rusher against the Chiefs, but the Bills were just having their way and doing whatever the heck they wanted to, and they were killing them through the air, whether it was Emmanuel Sanders scoring 2 touchdowns, Dawson Knox, whatever it is. I mean, Zack Moss had his fair share for 55 yards receiving. They were just having their way, doing whatever the heck they wanted. They didn't really have to rely on running the football because the Bills have no issue playing quarterback versus quarterback with Mahomes and Allen just kind of duking it out for points, and clearly the Bills defense held up on their end, and Josh Allen was the clear winner in that matchup. But Zack Moss this week against the Tennessee Titans, this has got to be one of the worst defensive units in the entire league. Top to bottom, rushing defense, passing defense, they are awful. You can throw it over the top on the Titans defense. James Robinson absolutely ran through them last week, nearly 150 yards on the ground on just 18 touches, scored a touchdown as well. The Titans defense is a lost disaster. They're a hopeless mess. And Zack Moss being a player who, again, he looks and feels like when you watch him on the field, he just looks like a goal line bruising back. But the dude gets passes on the backfield and catches them as well and is very productive in that avenue of things here in the fantasy realm. So Zack Moss is a player I feel is a strong RB2 play this week. He's a viable PPR and standard lineup option, which is very versatile and creates a great situation for us here. So Zack Moss, absolutely someone I would put in my lineups here in Week 6. How about Kareem Hunt? I'm basically at the point now in the season where Kareem Hunt is weekly a borderline RB1. His touchdown production has been through the roof. He's getting an annoying amount of work in this this Cleveland Browns offense. And the production he's having and taking away from Nick Chubb has been very, very frustrating. But Kareem Hunt has seemingly closed the production gap between himself and Nick Chubb. It's not all that big anymore. Last season, it was clear that Nick Chubb was the 1A option and Kareem Hunt was at best the B option. He'd come in on receiving downs, catch the passes, and be involved in that phase of things. But he's been much more involved as an active rusher. And again, the fact that he's getting so much work on the goal line is really digging into Chubb's workload, but really playing to the benefit of Kareem Hunt's own fantasy value, because he's the RB6 right now, and he's got a rushing touchdown or more in 4 out of the 5 games so far this season. He's rushed for 50 or more yards in 4 out of those 5 performances, and 60 or more in 3 out of those 5 performances. So you're talking about a player who is being involved not only as a rusher, but also as a receiver. I think Kareem Hunt continues this streak moving forward here against the Cardinals. This even has less so to do with matchup and just more so Kareem Hunt's usage and his ability to be a productive back in this Browns offense. They're clearly a run-centric team. Baker Mayfield has not been the player that I don't want to say that we expected him to be, because I'm not a huge Baker guy, but clearly this Browns offense would much rather keep this ball on the ground and play ground and pound smash mouth football than let Baker air it out. That's creating a lot of touches for this Browns offense. That's creating a lot of productivity. Kareem Hunt, we all knew when he signed with the Browns, is probably a starting level NFL back on almost every team in the league. He chose to sign with Cleveland. He's probably going to increase his shelf life because of that choice. His touches are staying lighter. His efficiency is still there, and that production is still very, very impressive. Kareem Hunt is my fourth must-start running back this week. And then Joe Mixon, taking on the Lions this week. Another struggling defense. Now, they really put Kirk Cousins and that Vikings team to the test last week. Almost brought them to the wire, and it looked like they were going to win that football game. But again, a second straight week where they lose to a long field goal to end the game. Joe Mixon, though, for those of you who are concerned and didn't get to tune into the game against the Packers on Sunday, it wasn't that Joe Mixon was losing touches or snap count to Samaje Perine. It was more so that the Bengals were managing Joe Mixon's touches. He's got an ankle injury right now. He's a bit ailed by that and was literally a game-time decision because of the fact that they really never saw him at full strength or at his top-end play level until Saturday afternoon before that game. So they were very, very cautious with Joe Mixon's touches and usage in this matchup prior to him hitting the field on Sunday. So they were just trying to limit and manage the amount of touches that he got in this game so as to prevent a re-injury and to prevent him from worsening the blow that ankle injury would have on his play for the long-term duration of this season. Joe Mixon's a certified workhorse RB1 in fantasy football when he's completely healthy. But this week, even if we don't see him get back to that really high workload percentage and snap share for this Cincinnati Bengals offense, I'm not concerned about his production here against the Lions. This is a team that got ran all over last week. Even if Joe has a reduced work share and they give Samaje Perine some more touches this week, I still think Joe's going to come out here and produce. I mean, how about Alex Madison against this group last week? Teams have been running all over the Lions this whole season, but just Alex Madison in general. Wow, the Vikings have got themselves two really good running backs. At 2 games, he's filled in for Dalvin Cook this season. He's been sensational. 2 easy matchups. I mean, the Seahawks and Lions are some of the worst rushing defenses in the league, but he has produced and showed up in those games without Dalvin Cook, and that has helped the Vikings stay true to their identity and their play style here. But that's besides the point. Joe Mixon, he can either get it done by just hitting his floor, I think, from finding enough yards from scrimmage through this matchup, or if he finds the end zone, you're going to potentially have yourself a somewhat normal boom-style performance out of him, and you can get respectable numbers from Joe. So despite the fact that he might not be at full strength, you might not get a full week's worth of work out of him this week, I still think he's got what it takes to be in the lineup. I still think that he's got enough going for him this week to be a productive fantasy player, so I'm not worried about him in this matchup. Again, as long as we hear good things about his ankle and his health throughout the week, and it looks like he'll be going out there on Sunday and playing this game. Alrighty, those are 5 must-start running backs for Week 6 fantasy football action. Again, if you guys have any questions regarding your individual teams, drop those down in the comment section below, and I will try to get as many of you as possible responded back to with an answer for who I think you should be playing in your lineups. One more time, go check out SFS Gold to get access to our exclusive membership services here on the channel, our weekly rankings, access to our private DMs. We'll set your lineups for you, all that good stuff. So thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Remember to click that subscribe button if you're new around here and have not seen our content yet. We post a ton of videos every week and would love to have you take advantage of those and become an awesome fantasy player this season. With that being said, I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.